Hey everybody, it's your girl Miss Reid. I am the host of the Discussion Room podcast, and I am the assistant extraordinaire for Afros and Audio. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with one of our inaugural class of ambassadors for Afros and Audio, Angela Hollowell of the Honey and Hustle podcast. Hey Angela, how are
Hey,
you today?
hey, good. How are you?
I'm great. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to chat with me. I know that Angela was like, "Is it gonna be too black to say we do it on Juneteenth?" And I was like, "Girl, no, let's do it." So, um, as I said, Angela is the host of the Honey and Hustle podcast. She is a North Carolina-based entrepreneur, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about herself and her business.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone that's tuning in now. Thank you guys for spending a little time with us on this Wednesday afternoon on this beautiful, beautiful Juneteenth. I am the host of the Honey and Hustle podcast, as well as the writer and I guess curator of the associated newsletter. Please hustle responsibly. If you're drinking today, please drink responsibly. Yes, that's where it came from. And we've been going strong for about 6+ months now on the newsletter. 4 years, a little over 4 years on the podcast. So super excited to continue to grow and be a part of the podcast community. I was a speaker at last year's Afros and Audios podcast festival. So when the opportunity came around to be an ambassador for it, it was a no-brainer for me. So happy to talk more about that for sure.
Well, since you brought it up, let's go right into that. I had the pleasure of meeting Angela in person at last year's conference in Baltimore. If you were on our 2 o'clock live, you know we're back in Baltimore at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum again. And when I met her, I was actually doing like on the spot interviews for the Black Podcasters Association. So tell us how you became a speaker for Afros and Audio last year. Like, how did you even know about the opportunity?
Yeah, I think I found out about it, I think through Black Podcasters Association, actually. So I'm on their newsletter and they were sharing stuff like that. So if you're not subscribed to them, check out Black Podcasters Association newsletter, also called Black Pod News. Check that out. So I applied. I had never really done a talk like that. So that was interesting for that being my first time. Learned a lot. Might apply to be a speaker again this year. I think I have something fun. That would be great, talking about newsletters and just my experience in trying to build a business around your podcast, which again, when I first started, I was just doing it for the love of podcasting, for the love of storytelling, not because I was like, I want to get rich, but that seems to kind of be what's on a lot of people's minds right now is like, how do I make a business out of a podcast? So maybe contributing to that discussion a little bit. Um, so yeah.
So you brought up how to make a business out of a podcast, and your podcast is called Honey and Hustle. Could
Yeah.
you tell people a little bit more what Honey and Hustle is about? And since you didn't start it initially to make it a business?
Yeah, yeah. So Honey and Hustle, I just like to say it's a podcast that celebrates North Carolina founders. We talk with creative entrepreneurs, startups, nonprofit leaders, small business owners based here in North Carolina, which everybody that pitches me to be a guest seems to conveniently forget that we're just kind of focused on that. And it was because of my experience being here in North Carolina and just the realization that, wow, like North Carolina is consistently ranking in the top 5 if not number 1 place to start a business, have a business. What makes North Carolina so special? What makes this a place where people want to stay and start businesses? So kind of looking at this ecosystem very, very specifically was something I felt like was really important, especially being in the southeastern part of the United States, where coming from Alabama, there just weren't a lot of resources like that. So I felt like I was kind of filling a gap in the media market for these type of stories, and that continues to be true today. That's still our mission. We went a little bit outside of North Carolina in the second season because of COVID, and I was like, oh, well, I'm already virtual, might as well get some people that I wouldn't normally reach. But even that was pretty much through recommendation only. It wasn't through people pitching me. So yeah, for 3 and 4, we've been back in North Carolina and really been enjoying that, and excited to continue to grow on that format. Like so far, it's been mostly interview-based format, but I have a couple tricks up my sleeve that I'm excited to see how our audience responds to. So
Okay. And so having had been a speaker at Afros and Audio last year, for anybody who's watching right now who didn't have an opportunity to tune into your session or be present there, could you tell them a little bit about what you spoke about since that was your first speaking experience? and how it
Yeah.
ties into your podcast.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, hey Talib, how you doing? Sorry I can't respond. I guess I'm not signed in. But so the first year, I think I just talked about like how to grow a team around your podcast and how to produce a podcast at a high level. I think a lot of people coming into the podcasting space, just by the nature of things, if you're starting a YouTube channel, if you're starting a blog, it's really just you. You know what I mean? You're a solo creator. And I got the opportunity to do a branded podcast show with a podcast hosting company. So I kind of got to step away from being the only person doing stuff. And I had a designer, I had an editor. So I had other people on the team that I was working with, and I could kind of stay in that host, creative director kind of role and dictate kind of the visual language for the show, which was really beautiful and a really fun experience. But I think, for so many people, and I say this about the film industry as well, like we get so used to doing everything that we don't take the time to figure out what we actually like doing and what parts of the process that we're actually really, really great at. And so, how do you step beyond just like, oh, I do this one thing to how do I translate my idea, my vision to build a better show, right? And I think it was when I got podcast editors and realized like, oh, I can take a step back from doing all the editing and actually be a little more decisive on how I want the show to look and feel and upgrade the quality of the show, right? So that was kind of what my talk was about. Oh, and how does that relate to Honey and Hustle? Yeah, I think it relates to both of my shows. It just relates to my experience in growing an ecosystem, a creative ecosystem around those shows and building shows that I think stand up to the quality that I like. I think that's everybody's goal to like for your output of whatever it is you're creating to match your taste. And that's what it's all about, really growing taste and developing your skills to a point where that can match your taste. And yeah, so I guess I was just trying to maybe elevate the conversation beyond solo creators to, you know, creative teams. I don't know.
I actually love that because I am and have always been a solo podcaster. And so my show has been on hiatus for a while because I have been a team of one. So now I really wish I had been able to be at your session and learn how to build my team. And so maybe things would be going even without me necessarily doing all of the moving of the pieces. About having a podcast that's also a business, you said that your experience speaking last year is kind of what led you to be an ambassador. So, other than your opportunity to speak at the conference, what else had you sold on saying, I want to be an ambassador for this business and this brand?
I think just my whole experience at the conference. So yeah, me speaking was only really about an hour of the whole thing, right? And this is a weekend long conference. So going to see some other talks. Um, Actually, let me just retract a previous statement that I said I was going to speak about writing a newsletter. I don't think that's actually what I want to pitch. But anyways, so I think going to other people's talks is really fun. Doing like the impromptu, like let's grab dinner, let's grab breakfast together, let's grab lunch, like that was really fun. So you get to meet other people outside of their talks. The vendors, awesome as always. um, and yeah, just the whole experience from top to bottom, it just felt very thoughtful, very curated. The location, the Reginald F. Lewis Museum, immaculate venue for Black people and Black podcasters and Black creators. Downtown Baltimore or like the Inner Harbor area, amazing, gorgeous. We had beautiful weather, amazing food options nearby, walkable to our hotel. I'm all about a walkable neighborhood. So yeah, Talib is laughing at me. Top to bottom, I really enjoyed it, and I went to 3 podcast conferences, festivals last year, and that was the one that I was like, yeah, there is one that I would recommend. It's definitely this one. So yeah.
Wonderful. I'm glad that was your experience. I mean, I was sold the same way. I spoke for the first time in 2021, and then I was moderating a panel in 2022, and then I joined the team last year for 2023. And it's just like the longer you stay involved with the organization, the more you fall in love with everything that's capable and in this community and building this community and seeing other people grow. Like I said, I got to meet you just doing interviews in the hallway and just listening to main stage presentations from the vendor section. So I really enjoyed getting to meet a lot of people, and I'm glad they, like you said, the let's grab lunch, let's grab dinner. it's always a good feeling when you meet your people. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you might be based in North Carolina, they're based in Chicago, this person is based in LA, I'm in Jersey. And it's like, hey, I listened to your show, or maybe I don't, but I've seen your online presence, or I was at your presentation today. Let's grab lunch. It's like, okay. And then, now you found more leads for your podcast, because it's like, hey, I know 5 business owners in North Carolina. Are you interested? Or, you might say, hey, I went to so and so school and I still have connects there if you want to highlight them on your educational podcast. So it's definitely a very warm environment where people get to collaborate. I love that about Afros and audio.
Yeah.
And so you change your mind. You're thinking maybe it won't be about newsletters. You don't have to share it now. But what made you make that retraction?
Oh, I was just like, I don't know. I'm one of those people, I'll have like an idea like mid-sentence and I'll be like, actually this is better. But I had an idea that for a concept of the format of the show, that I think would be more engaging and interacting. Like maybe I'm hoping for that one of those main slots versus just an optional slot, to leave. Wink, wink, if you're watching. So put me in the main room. You know what I'm saying? It'll be interactive. It'll be great. I think it'll be fun. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, for you and anybody else who missed our 2 o'clock session, we have a completely different format this year. So you won't have to worry about being in a side slot or a main slot. We'll be
Okay.
having different tracks. And so anybody who is looking to start a podcast, any beginners with interest in this space, will have one track. Anybody who is an audio professional who might be like doing engineering and producing and things behind the scenes, they'll have a different track. And then people who are looking to grow their show will have a different track. So that way the people aren't competing for the same time slots, and the guests will have a clearer vision on which session to attend and why.
Okay.
So
Okay.
submit whatever you want, the newsletter or your interactive session, submit whatever you want. And the planning committee, those those opportunities close on Friday for anybody who wants to join the planning committee. But we'll review all submissions, and people will know by the end of July if they've been chosen to speak this year.
Wait, so it's the being on the planning committee or submitting Friday? Because it's
Well,
both.
no, for you want to
Yeah.
speak, you'll be the submissions. So you know what? Just in case anybody else is interested in submitting to speak this year, I'm gonna drop the link for that. And Angela, you can tell us a little bit more about your other show, because I heard you say you have more than one podcast. And Talib was talking about that earlier. Like, just because you are a songwriter doesn't mean you write one song and then you stop. And being a podcaster doesn't mean, well, I have to have this one show forever.
Yeah. So the other show was a branded show with Castos called Creative Architects by Castos. And that was just like one season. So I guess it's kind of like a limited series. That was really cool. I got to kind of curate some really great creators in the space of like education, tech, and one other area that I really liked. And so I'm really happy with it. Please go check it out if you're interested in that sort of thing. I've tried to have a good community. Community was like our third kind of bucket, and I tried to have some really good variation and depth there. Shorter series of episodes. I think episodes lasted closer to 30 minutes versus like on Honey and Hustle, we go closer to 45. I'm just not one of those hour plus girlies unless I like really like you. But also very few shows do I listen to over an hour. I don't know. Maybe it's my attention span, but I can't do that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was short, it was sweet, it was fun. Highly recommend, or would appreciate you checking it out.
No, that's great, because I am an hour plus girly, and I learned recently that the trick for that's because I talk a lot, is to like break it up, so make it a 2-part episode. And so I was a guest on someone's show, and they made it a 2-part episode because we were really having a great conversation. And so they had been guests on my show first, and they were like, well, do you have time? And so we were there for like 4 hours recording, because they have 2 hosts, so asking both of them in-depth questions for my show, and then them getting all their questions out for theirs. It was
Yeah.
pretty long, but when the conversation is good, I just don't want it to end. but I respect you for having boundaries. She was like, no, 45 is my max. 45 is my max. And so I put the information down there for anyone who's interested in speaking this year. Make sure you go to afrosandaudio.com/submissions to enter your speaker submission. And hopefully Angela's will be there and you get to speak 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your experience thus far being an ambassador. I get your newsletter, so I know that you have been sharing with the people who receive your newsletter about Afros and Audio. And for those of you who don't know, all of our ambassadors have individual discount codes. And so tell us a little bit more about what your experience has been like being an ambassador thus far.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll drop my code somewhere that you guys can find it. But so far, it's been really great. Just kind of seeing how much effort and just like thoughtfulness they're putting into the event this year. Again, going back to Baltimore, I think is great. And just seeing how early they're hitting the ground running on like trying to get people engaged and excited about it. So I'm happy to be an ambassador. We've had an onboarding call so we could all meet each other and kind of brainstorm ideas to share it. As Shamiko said, I've been using my newsletter primarily to share it so far. I haven't really put it on a YouTube video or my podcast just quite yet. And we've been getting some clicks. I think it being in October maybe still feels early for people, but because I started sharing, I think in like April. So I think for a lot of people, they're just like, oh, I'll think about it closer to time. But I also think like, there's a lot of events that are going to be happening this fall. So maybe don't wait too long, actually, to do what you're going to do. So yeah, so it's been great. It's been fun. I'm excited for it. And I'm trying to get other people excited for it.
No, I definitely appreciate you saying you're trying to get other people excited for it. I understand that fall might seem far on the calendar, but it's already June 19th. And I feel like yesterday was Memorial Day. And so that those 20 something days went by very quickly. And on that same note, our early bird tickets are going to go very quickly. So the last day to get the early bird price is July 1st, and you get a discount from that early bird price with Angela's code. Angela, you want to tell them your code?
Yeah, it's AFA, so Afros and Audios, U24HNH. It's crazy. Okay. Check out my newsletter. I'll tweet it or something, so you guys can have it. But you get 15% off the early bird discount code with that code. So listen, get your savings in now. Go in and book your little hotel room. Plan your travel. Just get it out of the way. I think I did mine in August last year, but don't be like me. Don't wait. Just go ahead and do what you're gonna do.
Yeah, like I said, she put the code is AFAU for Afros and Audio. The year is 24, H&H for Honey and Hustle. Don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait. We announced earlier this afternoon our hotel partner is the True by Hilton. They have a wonderful staff who has already been very welcoming towards us just in cold calls so far. So I'm very excited for that. And like Angela said, you get an extra 15% off our already discounted early bird tickets. Get your tickets before July 1st, because by the time you think about it again, it's going to be September and they might all be gone. Okay. And it's a beautiful museum. You get access not just to Afros and Audios events, but to view the museum's displays and exhibits while we're there as well. So it's like kind of getting a 2-for-1 this weekend.
Yeah, I agree.
And did you get a chance to explore the exhibits while you were there last year?
I didn't. I did go to the bookstore though.
Okay.
So I got to explore that.
Yeah, we just had that conversation in our last live with the team, and AJ said the same thing. He only got to go to the gift shop. I've been to the museum several times, and I love it. They are always changing things up in their one mainstay that's there for eternity on Maryland is also very informative. So I definitely suggest you get your tickets now. Enjoy both the conference and the museum. And we look forward to seeing everybody there. Angela, do you have any questions for me? Anything we can be doing more to support you as an ambassador? Anything that would convince you to not just share on your newsletter, but also on your YouTube? You're muted.
Oops, so sorry. So last year I did a host read ad on my podcast. So part of that is just timing. Like, can I time it in time to get it on my YouTube like podcast episodes? Because those are probably, if you listen to a podcast, you probably like podcasts. You probably want to go to a podcast conference. But also kind of making some maybe video podcast or podcast specific YouTube videos and kind of having that as like a hey, since you like podcasts and you're watching this video, join me at this conference. The only thing about YouTube, which I really wish they would freaking change, is, and I know they have the ability to do this. Let's be abundantly clear. I know they can do this. They just haven't done it for some reason, which is give YouTube creators the ability to do dynamic ad reads within their videos um, instead of only putting in like third party ads. So that would be great. But ultimately, I'm not afraid to put in evergreen ad for Afros and Audios because you're going to be coming again in 2025 and 2026. So, it's like an evergreen. Come put this on your radar each year. Have fun, hang out, meet other Black podcasters. That could be fun. So, yeah, so it's coming. I think it's just going to take a little bit more planning on my part to get those videos recorded, edited, get that ad read in there as we lead up to, October. But in terms of things that I would ask for, I don't know. I don't know. I think this year I
I kind of
definitely
put
would love
you on
to
the
have.
spot. Okay.
I think I would love to have my recorded session available. I think that would be fun. Um, yeah, for people to kind of get a feel for, what it's like to experience me maybe in person. Because I don't have a lot of that. Like, like when we're doing this, when we're, recording a YouTube video, you're in a very controlled setting, right? You may not see all of my awkwardness because I'm just so used to showing up on camera. You may not, see me fumble over my words as much because I edited it out. Or, you may not realize how short I am because I'm sitting down. Like all these things that like maybe endear you to a person, whether we realize it or not. Like you just don't get that same feel over a video. So would love for people to kind of get maybe a more real life one-to-one experience that way. But that's one thing I would add, I think.
You know what? That's a great point. Especially that people don't know how short you are. You would not be surprised at how many people say that to me when they meet me. It's like, I had no idea you were so short. It's like I have a big personality.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you have a big personality. People don't really like you said, they don't get to perceive all of that via video or audio. And so I think it's a wonderful idea having your session available. It should be available in the BPA community. I know that we put everything from Afros and Audio is usually accessible for Black Podcasters Association members. So thank you for that feedback, and I'll see what we can do to support you with that.
Appreciate it.
Now, is there anything else you have going on that you want to share with anyone that's listening today, or that you would like to share about Afros and Audio?
Right now, the biggest thing is just like my newsletter. I've been publishing that twice a week, and that's been an incredible experience as I grow as a writer, I think, and has really challenged me to think about how I package podcast episodes, how I package my thoughts. So for people who are not subscribed yet, I share some thought leadership type stuff. I think my last one, which was Monday, I talked about, my take on, the case regarding the Fearless Fund, but also just talk about, emails. How do I manage that? How do I manage certain aspects of my business? How do I think about marketing and camera gear? All those types of things. But then I also, of course, share episodes of my podcast. So it's been interesting. It's been fun. Almost like giving the show a comment section, because as you know, on Apple, Spotify, there's no real comment section where people can let you know how they've reacted to it. YouTube, sometimes we get comments, but I wanted a more two-way street with people. So that's been great to have that. Really been loving that and enjoying that right now. The only other thing I would share about Afros and Audio is like I'm fairly introverted, and I still felt like amazing being there and had a great time. So don't let that stop you. Um, I think, it's less about here's an opportunity to network, but it's really just an opportunity to be in community with other podcasters. It feels amazing to hear what everybody else is thinking about and to kind of share ideas. I just feel like people grow exponentially when we put our minds together instead of acting like people are, you know, competition, you know. Thank you, Talib. Hello, Diva with Depression. I hope you don't currently have depression, you know, keeping you in my thoughts and prayers. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of how it is. And I think me and Diva with Depression have been connected on Twitter for a long time. So it's like, it's always great to meet people like that in person. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. So yeah, so it's been a great time, and you get to meet beautiful, nice people. So yeah, that's all I would say.
Well, I'm glad you shared so many of those things. First of all, like you said, hi to Dee Dee. Diva with Depression is another one of our ambassadors, and we'll be scheduling a live with her soon. So, guys, be on the lookout for that. But you also mentioned that sharing your newsletter gives you an opportunity to showcase your skills as a writer. And a lot of people don't think about podcasting and writing as hand in hand. And I'm glad you brought it up because Afros and Audio is partnering with Black Writers Weekend. So if you guys will be in the Atlanta area the first weekend in August, August 1st through 4th, we'll be there that Friday and that Saturday curating two different panels. One is about transitioning from writing for a page to podcast, and another one is about highlighting the voices in podcasting and audiobooks. And so, for anyone who is looking to highlight their writing skills from either direction. If you are currently a writer who wants to be a podcaster, the avenue is clearer than you think it is. If you are a podcaster who wants more highlighting on their written skills, maybe a newsletter like Angela shared is a good way to not only just showcase your writing skills, but like you said, have that two-way street with the community who listens to your show, because a lot of these hosting platforms don't allow for feedback or comments and things like that allows your listeners to tell you how they're feeling. And I know on your website you have like a option for people to leave you a voice note too, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's pretty cool. And so if anybody is interested in attending Black Writers Weekend, Afros and Audio is partnering with them. We'll be there. And then I also want Angela to tell you again the name of her newsletter, so that if you're listening now and you're thinking like, oh, I'd like to know more about Honey and Hustle and not just her podcast, but like I'm a subscriber to her newsletter. And like she just shared with you this past Monday, she talked about her thoughts on the Fearless Fund. So it's not like a narrow, oh, this is just about my podcast newsletter. Like it's broad enough that if you don't um, listen to the podcast yet, you have another way of getting interested and introduced to her community.
Yeah, yeah. So please hustle responsibly is the name of the newsletter. If you go to honeyandhustle.co and you click on the community tab, you can get subscribed to it there, learn more about it, and kind of read some of our previous episodes. So yeah, I would love to have you on there. And again, like Shamiko said, it's the podcast is there, but it really is about, creative founders as a whole and what the landscape looks like for Black, minority women, queer entrepreneurs. So I would love to have you there. If you're interested in that type of stuff, would love to have you.
Honeyandhustle.co,
Yeah.
not .com. I knew that, and I don't know why the banner added an M on itself, but yeah, honeyandhustle.co.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing that with us, Angela. I really appreciate you opening up about what made you choose to broaden your podcast into a newsletter. Like I kind of took I won't say reverse approach, but a similar approach, but the opposite direction. I started with a blog and I expanded my blog by starting a podcast. And it is quite challenging well, maybe not for everyone, but it has been a challenging endeavor for me to broaden my podcast into a business. And then I kind of decided that I didn't necessarily have to. Like, maybe I don't want this to be an income producing endeavor, because the nature of the subject that I discussed is quite sensitive, and I didn't want anybody to feel like I was like profiting off of their pain. But
Right.
for anybody who does want to change their podcast into a business, could you talk more about that?
Yeah. And I'm still learning, I would say my first like major income stream from podcasting was actually creating a podcast for someone else. That was the branded show. Um, right now, we've gotten some sponsorships for the newsletter podcast combo, which again, I wouldn't say start a newsletter because you can make more money off your podcast that way, but also like when I started the newsletter, I think it just made more sense for advertisers to have that direct connection with my podcast audience a little bit greater. And both of them being like evergreen type of things was really a bonus. So that has been a source of income this year. We have a literal record number two paid subscribers to the newsletter. So that's always fun. And they get an extra blog a week, typically on Saturdays. That's more of, revealing of, me and my business and where I'm at and what I'm thinking about, what I'm reading, what I'm watching, some more high level looks at my workflows and stuff like that. So, if you're interested in that and want that more direct access to maybe a peek behind the curtains of my business, there's that. And I think right now, just been focusing on monetizing the channels that we have. So, monetizing the YouTube channel, continuing to get sponsors for the podcast and for the newsletter. And yeah, just grow those avenues for sure. That's what we're really excited about. So.
And another thing is the resource tab on honeyandhustle.co shows you what resources Angela uses. Like I saw Fusebox on there. I also use Fusebox to have my podcast hosted on my blog. But she also shows you like how she's able to use what tool she uses to schedule meetings and stuff on her calendar. And so definitely if that's something you aspire to do, is turn your podcast into a business, Hustle and Honey, Honey and Hustle podcast, and then hustleandhoney.co are both great resources to help you get started with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Angela. So I think this is good. I think we chatted it up. And you really shared in depth with us why you chose to become an ambassador, what the experience has been like for you thus far, and your connection to Afros and audio. We've got to learn more about you as a person, your podcast. And so I don't want to keep you. It's Juneteenth. Go be free with your day. If anybody has any questions, we can hold space for like another 7 minutes and just end on an even number at 4:40. But we'll hold space. If anybody has any questions in the comments, I will view them. Angela, you are welcome to tell us more about you outside of podcasting while we wait and see if anyone has any questions. Oh, you're welcome, Talib. Thank you for giving us space to do this.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity. There's one question I wanted to kind of throw out. Maybe let's talk about me more, talk about like processes. So like I write about more than just like my podcast, but I also like the stuff that I write there, like doesn't go anywhere else. And I've seen 1 or 2 newsletters where they will record an audio version of their newsletter. Have you done some version of that between like your podcast and your blog?
Well, I don't currently have a newsletter. However, for the Afros and Audio newsletter, we did talk about doing an audio version to introduce the team members when we added some new members of the team a couple months back. And so what was that like for you as the consumer of that newsletter, the audio version? Was it like someone just reading the same exact script that was written, so like for accessibility purposes, or was it a little bit different?
Okay, can I keep it a buck and tell you I didn't actually listen to it? I just know that it's available. I'm sorry. So I didn't actually listen. I just know that it's an option available to me. So maybe I'm not the best target audience for this. But again, it's just like I write a newsletter. How many newsletters do I read? Not actually that many. Like very few that I actually keep on rotation that I genuinely make an effort to read every day or every week. So, and even like podcasts, like very few podcasts do I actually only listen to, right? Like typically every podcast that I listen to has a video version on YouTube. So I found them because I found the video podcast, which is like their main staple. And then once I started like driving more, now that like the world has opened up a bit more and I'm on the road, sometimes I'm like, okay, I can't watch it, so I guess I'll listen to it, So again, I'm not always the best determinator for like audio stuff, which is why I'm just like, I don't know. Is there a market for like people that would prefer that? Like, is that something that maybe I should consider repurposing into an audio version and put that on my podcast feed and see if I can get like people who like both, like meet them in the middle somewhere? Like, would that be a good format for a solo episode of my podcast? Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Thoughts, opinions.
Well, I come from the school of women of color podcasters when it was hosted by Danielle Desir Corbett, and she would tell you, go ahead and repurpose that stuff.
Yeah.
that was something that she definitely shared with me. Like, yeah, Talib said it's another touch point. When I was podcasting consistently, I was also blogging twice a week. So I would be writing for my blog Tuesday and Thursday, and then releasing once a month a podcast that related to whatever topic I have been covering each Tuesday and Thursday. And once my podcast started picking up, I started doing like Facebook Live every week or Instagram Live. I preferred Facebook because Instagram would always give me a hard time saving it, and I wanted to reuse this stuff. And so she said, hey, snatch the audio from your, at the time it was called Mondays with Ms. Reid. And so I would just talk about things that were on my mind, what I was watching on TV, and it would be related to my podcast. So for those of you, because I did a horrible job at introducing myself, my podcast, I speak to people about their relationship or lack thereof with their father or father figures and how it impacts who they are and how they show up in the world. And so I would be watching like Queen Sugar, and these are these siblings navigating the loss of their dad. And then there's a teen son with a father who committed an act of infidelity against his mom. So I would just be like watching shows that I genuinely enjoyed and seeing the daddy issues and be like, okay, on Mondays with Miss Reid, we're gonna talk about Queen Sugar. Are you guys all caught up on Queen Sugar? Did you watch Tia and Tiny, The Family Hustle? How do you think they handled this particular parenting moment? And so she was just like, hey, repurpose that. That means that's one less podcast episode you have to record. It's another touch point, and it gives your audience an opportunity to get to know you outside of the interview setting that you do for your show. And so I would say give it a shot, test it out.
Okay.
And sometimes you are not the audience, you're not your own target market. So just because you wouldn't like it doesn't mean there isn't someone out there who would.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you points are being made, that's for sure. Just like, I don't know, because then like the other by extension is, okay, do I post a video version of this too if I'm gonna record it? Like, how far do we go here? You know what I'm saying? It's just like a full written audio visual, universe that we're building.
I would say for me, I am a less is more girly. I got very overwhelmed writing, and mine was on YouTube before having a video podcast was the thing to do. And then when people started having video podcasts with all these different angles and like zooming in, I was like, I can't keep up. I don't have the time to do all that editing and making it cool, and I just don't want to do it anymore. And so it kind of stole some of that joy from me. Right now, you seem like you are enjoying the writing aspect of your newsletter. Test it out doing the audio, but if it's something that's going to steal the joy out of producing the newsletter or hamper down your podcasting process, I wouldn't pursue it further. It's like, okay, this is the thing we're trying. We've tried it, and we've decided to continue or discontinue.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that.
Okay. I appreciate the question. You giving me something new to think about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're almost to the 440 mark.
Yeah, we're almost there. And it's been wonderful chatting with you. Just remind everyone of your code. I am going to put up here again the way to buy your early bird tickets. Get them today. You have until July 1st for the early bird price with an additional 15% off using Angela's code. And Angela's going to tell you that code again right now.
It is AFAU24 HNH.
And so that's AFAU, like Afros audio, the year 24, H&H for Honey and Hustle.
Yeah.
And that should be in the comments. So if anybody is just joining us, just scroll up a little bit. It's in the comments. We put it in there.
Yeah. And thank you, Talib. Yeah, like on the go audio. I love that. Yeah. I know, something to think about. I'm gonna try it. And if, we'll see what the people say. How do people find me on social media? Most days I'm hanging out on Twitter or LinkedIn. Twitter, Angela Hollowell, because some bots stole my full name. Elon, if you're watching this, please let me just have my full name. On LinkedIn, Angela Hollowell. I'm the one from Durham.
The one from Durham.
Yeah.
I'm the one from Durham. Put that on a shirt. I'm the one from Durham.
Yeah.
I'm like, just put that and you can sell it. And anybody else who has a name that is duplicate somewhere, they can just wear those shirts and buy them. I'm the one
That's
from
so funny. I don't know if there's a market for that, but I'm gonna try it out just because you said
Durham.
that.
You can do it as a giveaway and see how many people have them tag you in the post when they wear it.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, folks, we have reached our 4:41 time. We're going to end early because we had a very efficient conversation. We talked about Angela. We've talked about her podcast. We talked about her experience as both a speaker and an ambassador for Afros and Audio. We've told you where the conference will be held this year, and just in case you forgot, I'm going to put it there again. Stay with us at True by Hilton, Baltimore, and we will be we'll be having it at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum again, which was a wonderful venue. Even if you are not coming to the conference or not sold on being at the conference just yet, go by the museum. And once you see it, you'll be like, oh, I definitely have to come back for Afros and Audio. So
That's a Baltimore specific request because, you know.
yeah, no. If you're in Baltimore or if you'll be visiting anytime before the conference, definitely check out the museum. There are venue. Grab your tickets. I'm going to put that back there. You see the museum. I already showed you the hotel. Now it's time to get tickets again and have a wonderful Juneteenth. Angela, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, who will be watching the replay. I had a lot of fun today. I hope you did too.
Yes, thank you guys so much for watching.